Yeah, so we've got office admin slash ops. She's making a pretty hard detour towards the operations management side at some point. Her seat's got about three people within it really, and so
Mm,
we're as we grow, she's going to split into three different seats. So we got one office, if you will, general manager on the handyman side that's still 40% billable time, 30% billable time, and then the rest of it's in the office or coaching or training or those kind of things, checking profit margins and all that.
mm,
A lead tech that's a full-time lead, so he's full-time billable. And then we have currently a tier, he'd be an apprentice slash tier one, but he's moving to a relationship manager role. And so he's actually already started doing some of that for some heavy outbound sales with some of our referral partners, and then doing a decent amount of uh, the quotes that don't get accepted on site. He's staying on top of those and keeping those pushing through the funnel. And so we're
mm.
currently hiring for another tech that'll be has to be a tier two, and I can go into why that has to be that way if you want to go into some of that. Then remodel side, there's a remodel manager that pretty much manages projects. That's so new for us. He's still in the field a decent amount because most of our remodel techs are pretty green, and so he's there to just get our hands around what that training schedule feels like, and then send in two techs over there with him. And then we have a sub. That's why I said a half. And we may be
Yeah.
at 8.5 now, but we have a sub he's 3.5, 4 days a week with us a lot. And then we may go a week or two without him, but then he's back on there for a 8 or 9 week run. Just kind of depends. But we're actually that could be a whole nother podcast in and of itself on the remodel side. We're actually playing with going to 100% sub model over there versus
Mm.
W2s. Um, just from a it maybe a means to an end for something else we're looking at, but that's a whole nother another podcast probably.
Awesome. So you mentioned these tiers for your technicians and that they're estimating their jobs, they're pricing it, they're kind of siloed and everything runs. I'm guessing the structure is the technicians out there doing their day to day. They have questions or problems or need help. The GM is above them, and the GM's kind of the blocker for you, if you will, so you can focus on your kind of running the ship and making sure you're moving forward. But love to hear
Yeah,
how that technician day to day is structured, how they're estimating pricing, kind of running their own day.
yeah, and I can kind of tell you how we got there too. We were a centrally led, like central estimating
Okay.
shop, so I did most all the estimates. And back then, we probably only went to 2 to 5%, maybe 10% of the jobs before we sold them. We would do everything over the phone. We would get photos, basic measurements from the client. That was kind of our way to get them bought in. Hey, mister, if you're serious about this, get me all this stuff, and then we'll quote it. We
Mhm.
never have to come out, and we'll just show up and do the work. And that sounds awesome, and the clients loved it because it was fast and all that good stuff. But that doesn't scale past how many I could physically do in a day, or another estimator could do in a day. But then the main problem that it created was this log jam of information. So tech would go out, and we used company cams, so we had tons of photos. And if it was a big enough job, once it was sold, I may go out and do some more like take off stuff on site and then load all that into our system. But if they had questions, they had not talked to the client yet. So expectation could not, they didn't know what the expectation was. Right. And so obviously in our world and in the repair world, if it's a broke fix, there could be something that's repairable. It could also be replaceable. And like both of those answers could be correct in that scenario. But if they didn't really understand what the goal was, they may overrun the materials and not even mean to. They have no handle on anything. And then I'm estimating it based on what I think it's going to take, not not how long it's going to take them to do it.
Mhm.
And I may be too slow or I may be too fast, right? So anyway, we worked with Ben out of Dallas. I think he's in Dallas, right?
Mhm.
Um, anyway,
Yeah, Ben
and
Alexander.
and it, yeah, what was that?
Yeah, Ben Alexander. He's on our
Yeah,
Handyman Success podcast, and yeah, very accomplished in kind of the bigger
yeah.
scale handyman space. Shout out to Ben if you're out there listening.
Yeah, shout out to Ben. So we worked with him for he and I, he was one, there was two guys that I talked to early on that had scaled way before we ever started. They were kind of nice enough to kind of open
Mm.
up the playbook and tell me some things. And so a lot of what we do is loosely based around some of their stuff mixed in with our little flair to it. But
Yeah.
we swapped over to this model where the techs are leading the estimate, which is no different than any other trade. Like all the electricians, all the plumbers, they all do it this way too, right? And so basically, when they go out to estimate, all they're doing is they're estimating time and material, but you're not getting a time and material quote. You're getting a lump sum here's what it costs to get the outcome you're asking me for.
Hmm.
And so they're not riding your clock by, they're not riding mine either. And so the idea is it promotes efficiency, hopefully, if you've got it structured right. Now, with that, you got to have, they all have a base salary plus that, but it's got to be set the right way. Otherwise, the salary overruns what their commission could be. And so there's a whole science to it. Um, but what that allows us to do is again empower them in the field and allows you to go after guys or ladies that are doing it already, that are very good at what they're doing day to day, but they don't want to deal with what's going on in the back end, which Whitney in our office loves to do. So like she loves the back office stuff. Let's let her do that. Um, and so that's another big reason why we would do why you would set it up that way. And then we have tier levels, tier one, tier two, tier three. And some of this we've gone a little bit rogue on how we do it versus the way maybe Ben had taught it, but um, it's got a set of skills with each one that they should be able to do to be classified as this.
Can you
And
translate that
then
to basically like set of skills basically means they can do these jobs we're selling? Is that kind of the simple
yeah,
kind of framework there?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, that job or whatever that job needs. Example being, if you can assemble a desk, you can probably assemble a chair. So assembly.
Yeah.
Um, but you may not be able to assemble a generator, right? That's got an engine to it. So that's not the
Yeah.
same. You can't lump them that way, but if it's furniture style, maybe. But so it's got that, and then it's also tier one. You know, all of our guys are required to bring their own tools, with the exception of specialty tools. We have a list of tools they have to bring to work here, and tier one has a whole different requirement than two and three. Tier two and three has to have like the big name brand stuff, the good stuff, and then tier one can still be DIY grade and get by. But not just skill. We took it a step further, and just because you can install a door doesn't mean you can install it without help. Like I can go with one of our guys right now and install the door, but if he goes by himself, he's going to call us 5 or 6 times, let's just say, to get it done. And so to be a tier three, tier two, or tier one, you have the skill, but then you've also got the amount of touches that you need to get that job done. So a
Mm-hmm.
tier one person, we expect to get 4 calls a day back to the office, you know.
Hmm.
Tier two, you might get one a day, two a day. Tier three, you may not hear from them half the week. Like they're
Hmm.
going to kind of do their thing and get on. And so if we've got from an operational standpoint, if we've got 6 tier one guys in the field, only one tier three, man, that GM is about to be worn out because they're going to be calling the
Mm.
whole time. Because not only are we having to help with technical issues, we're having to help with, oh, the customer said this. I don't know where to go from here. What am I supposed to do? They don't have all that yet, you know?
Yeah.
And so we have to be very careful about, like, right now we actually made the move to move the tier one guy to a relationship manager. One, it's a way better personality fit. He's crushing it over here. But also we were losing money with having a tier one tech because most of our tier one jobs turn into tier two real quick. Like there's very few tier one jobs out there that don't, because we're pretty good at finding things to help with. And it's kind of natural. If you got a good process, you get in their home and they felt good getting there, which marketing is a piece of that. And then when you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I've got all these things that I want you to look at while you're here. Well, that quickly goes to tier two, tier three. You know, we
Hmm.
learned that a tier two was going to be worth $175,000 bottom line just by bringing one into the house, into the shop. And so it was like, huh, no brainer. Put this guy over here to go find more tier two jobs. And let's hire a tier two tech, and
Mm.
we'll make this thing go the way it should. So we really don't need a tier one until we have probably 3 or 4 full billable tier two and up guys on the street.
What have you done that's worked well to find these types of guys that you can trust in the field that have experience?
Ask me next year, I'll let you know. Uh,
It's a tough thing.
no,
A lot of people, they struggle with, finding the help and especially guys that already know what they're doing that aren't just, calling you every second of the day or, botching work.
yeah, I'm a big fan of the non-traditional hire where possible. So my GM, Colby, he's also been my best friend since we were like 10. But he was a school teacher. That was he did that for right at 10 years, I think. But we both grew up together, small town. He could do, his family was a fixed family that could do anything. And so I knew he was handy. I knew he could do all that kind of stuff. But he would kind of come, he came in the summers and worked with us a little bit, just here and there. and kind of got his hands on it and decided teaching was not going to be the path. And so he was a non-traditional hire, right? He didn't come from the
Mm,
trade side. I didn't come from the trade side. I was a banker. So that was my background, was sales and banking, and then got into the home services space. And so I think there's a ton of me out there that are looking to do that, to get out of whatever they're doing
mhm,
and take that skill they've already learned. Like you think about a guy who was teaching seventh and eighth graders and making them all focused on getting to the end goal the right way. I mean, that's a skill that can be heavily tapped into for what we're doing here, right? To implement a training program, to make sure that everybody's hearing the same voice from top to bottom on the culture, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one. We try to look at non-traditional stuff. Our main handyman, I'm in a B&I group, and we can go into how I feel about that later. But I'm in one, and I just threw out a charge one day and said, "Hey, I'm looking for people. If you've got anybody that's been working on your house, anybody you know that you like, here's what we're building. It's a cool place to work. Would love to talk to him." And he was a referral out of that group. He's been with us a little right at almost a year maybe now, or getting on it somewhere in there. And but he was already doing the work. He was doing some of this on the side, not so much full time, but he had a book of business and he had been operating on his own. And so that's been great. Chris Lalamia calls those lone wolves. Chris is out of Atlanta with Trusted Toolbox, and he
mhm,
says, find the lone wolf, find the one that likes to be alone, that likes to do their work by themselves all day, and then just give them a place to land. Is I
mhm.
probably butchered it. Sorry, Chris, but it's something like that. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to find some of those lone wolves now. And so part of that too, I'm on the Home Builders Association. I'm on the board there. And so that's allowed me to get really close with a lot of other builders and contractors and all these people. Well, my remodel manager was from that group, and he was just kind of tired of doing it on his own, been doing it by himself for 15 years. And it had done well, but it kind of hit some glass ceilings, I think, and had not quite cracked the whole scale thing, and not been able to find people because we're all looking for people. And so um, that's been another avenue that I didn't see coming that has allowed us to hire people. I think we're going to have another little merger coming in the next 6 months or so that's going to come with some people. And so I mean, it's just a happy accident because I've been in this group and got to know these people.
Mm,
And so that is not really one that I can put well, here's the playbook for that. It's just get involved and get around
yeah.
people. But I think the next phase that we hadn't tapped into yet is our social media. And so we've really been pushing our content and how we do that. And that's just
Mm,
getting more eyeballs on us. It shows some of the fun stuff we're doing. It shows how we operate. I think the next move is going to be to turn that on to be a recruiting tool.
mhm.
Um, and we've tried some of the Indeeds and things like that. We've got a power washing business too, and we hire a lot of people off of Indeed from there. Um, and one thing, Jason, I don't know if I mentioned this on the last call, but we we have been trying for two different school systems in our area. We've been trying to set up a pipeline of students from those schools to kind of interview them throughout the year. It's almost not. We have VOTEC, we have trade programs, but this is more for the students who don't qualify for that because they're in sports or something else, and they don't have time to give up 3 class periods to go do tech school. They've got this little
Mhm,
program they're trying to create where they give up like 2 free periods a week. And then we would get them for that amount of time and kind of interview them for a whole year, basically. And we're
mhm.
trying with that, but the funding's just been off. And so
Yeah.
we're starting to get hooks in the water.
I see more of that naturally developing through economics, if you will. Actually, just the other week, one of these massive investment firms that control lots of retirement funds, BlackRock, they're investing $100 million into training programs for trades, electrical, plumbing,
Wow.
because they see, from the data side, the lack of supply of quality tradespeople. So I think naturally there's going to be more funding and training outlets in the next 5 to 10
Yeah.
years. That's just my feel. Um,
Well, BlackRock, if you're listening, 601-416-6162, we'll take 1 million of that. That's all we need, just 1 million of the 100. And we'll put it to work here. We'll train them, whatever.
just 1%.
Yeah.
One common denominator that I've learned since being in the industry since 2017, 2018, what you exhibit so well, JR, is that there's this underlying success factor of business owners that are naturally in their community. You create relationships. You're in the home builders association, so it creates relationships to find these non-traditional hires. It creates obviously relationships for referrals, and just naturally builds up this kind of like hometown reputation for your business. And I think that you do that really well. So I commend you for that, and just want to make sure our listeners understand that there's this web underneath it all, that if you are naturally a part of your local community, it's like this secret sauce that goes on top of everything that you're doing.